Hi, good afternoon and welcome. This is Mark Dickinson for Gulf Business Academy, and today I'm really excited to interview Robert Mikaelian. Robert is the VP of Human Resources for JA Hotels and an expert in human resources, learning and development, and a long-term hospitality veteran. So, Robert, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Very nice to have you.
Thanks. So, Robert, just to get us kicked off here, what we want to do is we want to be talking about what comes after the crisis. So a lot of people are very focused, and obviously so, on the challenges that they're facing right now. But what we want to do is we want to look ahead and see what is the future. And we want to talk to people like you, business leaders and thinkers, about what the future holds in your imagination right now, obviously, of course.
I completely hear you. And you know what the future holds? The future holds change. I think we, in our industry, in many industries right now, we've been stagnant for many years, being satisfied with what we have, being just living with the day-to-day operation and, accepting the pruning of a tree and doing small little changes here and there and adaptations and talking about things like best practices that, everybody's doing the best practice of this or best practice of that. And I think a crisis like this, and I'm going to use the word crisis because that's what it is. It's a worldwide crisis, is a shaker and a mover. And I think we need to be grateful in these moments where, the world has just come, kicked us off our feet, said, look, whatever you've been doing is just not enough anymore. And we need to do things differently. And we need to do things differently with our people. We need to do different things with our processes, with our systems, with our technology. I mean, look at this. We're doing our interview in, I believe, different parts of wherever we are. And it looks like we're right next to each other, having a nice chat.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going to be changing. It's going to be happening now, where we are going to have to relook at every single process, every single job scope, and re-realize the reality of the world we're living in.
Right, absolutely. So, Robert, let's just get to know a little bit about you. Where did this incredible journey of hospitality kick off for you?
It was many years ago in just a small little restaurant and trying to make a few ends meet. And, and with a lot of effort, a lot of struggle, you become somebody. You become somebody with a lot of passion, somebody with a dream, somebody that's unstoppable. I wouldn't let anybody hold me back. And it brought me to where I am today, And it's not
so
the end
where
of
where did you start? I mean, now you're here in Dubai, but where did you actually start the journey?
First in Turkey, I suppose, in my younger years, and then in Holland, and then I've been in South Africa, and then I was in Bahrain. I did a few of the Gulf states, Abu Dhabi, Ras Al Khaimah, and now in Dubai. In between.
Brilliant. So like most hospitality people, you've been pretty much around the world.
Yeah, child of the world. That's what it is.
There you go. Listen, there's been many years of experience there. I want you to pick out one moment that stands out, like you say, yeah, this was one of the greatest moments. Tell us about the greatest moment.
My greatest moment, I'd say, is probably my first opening. When that ribbon was cut, and I saw, everything that we had done for approximately 7 months, 7.5, 8 months of hard labor and getting our people all together and bringing all this excitement into it. And the moment that ribbon was cut, I was like, wow, that was amazing.
Fantastic. So, Robert, we're here to talk about what comes post-crisis. So, broadly, what comes after this?
You know what? In people, what's going to come is efficiency, productivity, doing what is required to be done, cutting out all the excess fat that is just useless, like motionless, dead weight into a company, and streamlining. I mean, making
Could you
companies.
give some examples of what you mean by excess fat?
Oh, all of the unhelpful processes that we do day to day, recording things that maybe somebody's going to use sometime, or somebody 7 years ago said, oh, can I have this report? And for the last 7 years, every single week, you've been sending that report to somebody who never actually really reads it. All of that.
Right.
And I mean, that's a
So
very small
focus
example.
on efficiency and effectiveness.
Oh, for sure. Try and find ways to make sure that every single person's day is going to be a day that's going to be worthy. I mean,
Right. Now, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, just looking at these last few weeks being stuck at home and working remotely, the efficiency that that has brought without traveling to work, without going anywhere, just sitting at home and doing work, like real work for many, many hours, was much more efficient than being consistently disrupted in the workplace. That's for me
Right.
personally.
Right. So at a strategic level, what do you see is going to be the biggest change for leadership, strategists, executive team members? What kind of changes are they going to go through?
I think a lot less travel.
Uh-huh.
I think travel in itself, even though we are in the travel industry, is going to be very, very rethought, because right now you can travel right as we are. Just open up a meeting request and be able to handle everything. And I think this awakening has gone not only in our industry, but in every other. So that's going to be.
Don't you think we used to like, hopping on the plane and going to the meeting a little bit? There was a bit of, spice and adventure in that.
Of course, we liked it, but liking it doesn't make it efficient.
Right, right.
And you lose
So,
around 2-3 days of your life between airplanes and airports and I don't know what, and you drop into a meeting, you have a 40-minute meeting, maybe an hour meeting, and then you have to do another 1.5-day trip back home, and then you got to reclimatize and get the job done. It's much more effective to do that just as we are.
now I have a question for you. You guys have a lot of people that are at home right now. When the crisis comes to an end and you decide to reopen your hotels, what's going to be your approach towards your former employees? How will you select who is coming back? Is it a blanket thing? Does everyone come back? Or are you going to implement new structure, new strategy, new thinking right from the get-go?
It's a difficult question, and it's a difficult question in a multiple of levels. I believe there's going to be some dropout. I believe so. There's going to be some change. There's going to be a reassessment of who's bringing enough into the company. We haven't, as a company, we haven't let anybody go as yet. And I'm saying as yet with a lot of hope that that will be still the case. But once everybody does come back, or the people that decide to come back actually come back from their vacations, there will be a huge amount of stress put into performance. And I mean performance of the full workday, being a performing person. And I think it's going to change drastically.
See, Robert, one of the questions I have is that when you go, or let's say when you went into a lot of organizations, you could drum up a meeting with quite a number of people around the table. And there's always that sort of question wandering in your head, like, what all these people do? How is that going to change?
Again, it comes back to making the right people responsible for the right things, and streamlining leadership, streamlining KPIs, and making sure the right people are in that room doing the right thing and making sure it comes out with outcome. a lot of those
Okay.
meetings you're referring to were meetings to be held, and people said things because, oh, I need to say the same thing again. The occupancy today is blah, 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 blah. And I'm
Right.
saying blah, 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 not to be undermining possibly the importance of meetings, but I think they will be, not have to be, they will be a lot more focused on getting outcomes.
I mean, can you see technology replacing a lot of those meetings by having, I know very well that, you have the daily briefing, everyone sits around and various people, they play their roles, definitely, but the material information could all be delivered digitally in terms of yesterday's statistics, yesterday's performance, this week's forecast, VIPs coming in, special treatment customers, people of disadvantage, all that stuff doesn't actually have to be talked about, it just has to be communicated. Could that change?
What kills me, it's already communicated. And then they have the meeting on top of it.
Okay,
So
so you see that going.
Oh, for sure.
Brilliant.
Go on.
Yeah, how do you see this affecting the expenses and the costs of business? How are people going to look at expenses and costs going forward?
Again, look, the businesses, I believe, got a massive shock during this crisis in that they realized their sustainability is not as good as they thought they were. And
right.
A lot of businesses, I think, are right now seriously in a crisis situation, including ours. I mean, we have just... We always knew it, but there was always but the revenue's coming in and things are okay. And the moment that tap got cut, we got hammered in the understanding of how long will we be able to keep this up, and that our business is not as sustainable as we thought it was. And the answer to the question is, I think this realization has really made us rethink about our structures. I mean, I haven't been working so hard in a long time since this home coronavirus, because we've been sitting together in meetings such as you and I right now with a group of, high level executives of the company saying, all right, now we have a time of silence. What are we going to do to restart the business? Because it's not going to come back the way it was. That we all know.
Right. So you don't see business as usual.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Good. Now, what's been the game-changing thought for you?
Remote.
It's amazing.
Remote. Yeah. I mean,
honestly, having this meeting together, there's a few, little bumps where we both speak at the same time. And that's just, I guess, a question of practice. I mean, the more we did that, the better we get at it, I imagine.
I'm sure.
So, all right. So I want to look a little bit forward, and I want to ask you about customers.
Okay.
What do you see as the changing expectations of customers in your business as a result of this crisis?
You know what? It could go so many different directions. I'll have my thoughts. I mean, obviously, hygiene and this whole touchy-feely connection, social distancing is going to definitely have some kind of effect. We'll have to relook at the simple things like table setups in restaurants and the proximity of one table to another. How we put napkins on the table in the future. Can you use your bare hands to put a napkin down, which is then going to be wiped onto somebody's face? I mean, stupid little things, but those stupid little things, when you add them up, change everything.
Right.
Who cleaned my room is going to be a question mark. Do we need to put a sign up saying the person who cleaned your room didn't touch his face? I don't know, but there's so many intricacies that we have to overcome and we have to rethink about and we have to look at, but still keep the basic friendly expectation of hospitality intact.
Amazing. So what do you see as the rising values? You mentioned cleanliness and hygiene. Do you see any other values that are going to accelerate for customers?
I mean, social distancing definitely is going to be another one.
Uh-huh.
Some kind of, when you're waiting in line in reception, or in a line in a supermarket, in a shop, or in next, or whichever place, there's going to have to be some kind of understanding that people are not going to be wanting to be too close to each other for a while. And I'm not talking about a few months. I'm talking about a few years. The airline industry is probably going to have to rethink about their coach, seating, because that's just too close for comfort. So their things are probably going to also be reevaluated on, if they can put less seats in a plane, what's going to be the cost of flying?
But it might be more comfortable, right?
And maybe you don't need business class anymore.
Yeah. And all right, which values that have, persisted recently? I was having a chat with somebody else about this, about millennials, and then they said it's not millennials, it's Gen Z, Generation Z that's going to be affected. What are the values that this group or these two cohorts of the population hold that are going to disappear?
Well, I think the basic value of materialism is not going to disappear, but it's going to diminish. I think disappear is a really big word. I think materialism is going to diminish. I think the I want it now for now is going to diminish as well. There's going to be a little bit of insight into preparing for future, a little bit of insight or more insight into, getting ready, putting some savings together. Everything's not going to be on the spot spent. So these how do you say, mindsets are going to change. The whole I want it and I'm going to spend it mindset, I think, is definitely going to be reevaluated by a lot of people. Not only that generation, I think all generations put together. There's going to be a scarcity across the world. And this is going to be a very, very difficult time financially for a lot of people.
Okay, Robert, I have one last question for you. This is going to end, and it's going to end one day. Either the curve is going to fall, or the cure is going to be found, or the vaccine is going to be found. What do you think is going to happen in that post-crisis euphoria? What's your predictions for the day that they declare a cure is found, or a day that we declare that, life can now proceed back to some sort of normal? What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, Corona, the cure will be found. Not the cure or the vaccine or there will be an end to Corona, like every other previous viral disease that took over the parts of the world at that time, the whole world this time. I think there is no one answer to that. I don't think I have an answer to that, or I have a thought on it either. I think the main idea right now is how is everybody going to come out of it personally? And what I was mentioning earlier, what is going to be your new perception on life, on appreciating life, on doing things? I think it's not going to happen in an instant. If that's what you were asking, is it going to be like doors open and everybody goes out for a party like sheep out of a pen? I don't think so. I think there's going to be a lot of hesitation. I think we're looking at a very slow improvement on the tourism industry of at least 18 to 24 months before people even come comfortable to go on real vacations.
Right.
There will be travel, but it won't be to the laissez-faire way it used to be in the past for a while.
Interesting. Great. Well, Robert, I want to thank you so much for having been with us today. appreciate your thoughts and sharing very openly. That's really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Robert Mikaelian from JA Hotels, the VP of Human Resources, and we're signing off from Gulf Business Academy. Keep it tuned. We have more interviews coming up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.